how important is community in finding meaning? How important is, I mean, from what I remember from your own work, you make a whole living out of making people talk about really hard and sufficient topics. And so how important is it that community is involved in us finding meaning?
Well, I think it's vitally important. As I've done work on civil discourse, there's many things I've learned. But one thing that I've learned is while the most contentious issues may be political, that civil discourse is actually not about politics. It's actually about human relations. It's about having conversations across difference that recognizes our shared humanity. One of the things that is wonderful to see is that there's food tonight. Food is a really important ingredient, actually, to civil discourse. I found it in my own work. Indeed, others who have done conversations across difference in environments that are even much more difficult than on a college campus. Food is so important because food is a very human act. Eating is a very human act. And it's very hard to dehumanize somebody when you're doing the very human act of sharing food together. It's embodied, right? And it's taking place in time, in a proximity, right? As opposed to offline, right? Where we don't have proximity and we can have a sense almost of timelessness. I mean, I have just amazing set kind of stories that I've been able to see from students at Carolina, where I am now, and at Duke, where I was previously. The Good Life course, we had dialogue groups that met in a dorm, and they talked about religion and politics. And you know how difficult things were after October 7th of over a year ago. And my students they would speak in the dorm rooms with food, led by upper class discussion leaders over questions like on religion and politics. Does God exist? What is the role of merit in a good society according to different religious and philosophical traditions? And when I did the surveys afterward, I was so proud of my student leaders. I got to brag on them. When I surveyed the students out of 5, were you free to speak? It was 4.95 out of 5 was the average. And then the question, which is even more important, is did you learn something from someone even though you disagreed with them? And that was, I think, about 4.6 out of 5. And it shows that by building community and by building relationships and by coming together around these questions, the kind of things that Peter was talking about, that concern us all. Questions of our mortality, questions about love, questions about justice, questions about freedom, questions about happiness. The pursuit of truth about these questions can bring us and take us from our own partial perspectives and bring us together in a shared inquiry, even if we come down in different places. So I think that the community part of it is absolutely essential to this work.
You know, when I'm complaining to my friends about the food at 1920s Commons, we often talk about what is the real meaning of life after that, you know? Since I'm going to starve here anyway, right? So,
well, make that argument to your administrators. As part of the university commitment to civil discourse, they need to invest in better food.
Look at that.
I'm speaking with the dean here.
Absolutely, Dr. Struck. So, Dr. Struck, you'll be our last. You will be the one answering our last question tonight, but the question I have for you is, what is the role of community in the university specifically as it pertains to finding meaning, right? The educational institution. Because it seems like, you know, I mean, I walk down Lucas Walk every day. I, talk to friends and all that stuff, and we talk about these things, but what role does the school play in helping me find meaning? The liberal arts play, my community around me play. Could you answer that for me?
Thanks for the chance to answer this question. This is really important. The sort of community dimension, I think, of what we're up to in a university setting of trying to pursue understanding of the world, is irreplaceable. The idea that, these days, since the last 12 months, and understandably, we've been centering this sort of question of civil discourse, right? So we should have disagreement, but let's always be civil about that disagreement. I'm fine with civility. Like, that's great. We should have more civility. I'm all for civility, but it's not enough. Civility is fine. Like, it's good, but it's not enough. The point of disagreement for me is that you learn. This is the necessary prerequisite for advancing knowledge, is to find people that think differently than you do. I knew everything when I was, 11 years old, because I'd never talked to anyone who disagreed with me. So I was 100% satisfied that I knew everything I needed to know. And then you start to talk to other people and you're like, oh, maybe they're smart too. And maybe they have a view and maybe I can learn from them. This is again back to Socrates, that finding people you disagree with is something to be cherished, particularly if they're thoughtful. And let's make a presumption of thoughtfulness until we're proved otherwise, and let's engage with people across dialogue. That's how we're going to learn. It's irreplaceable in a university setting. It's not just a matter of being nice to each other or civil. I'm all for that, but I really want us to learn from each other. Without disagreement, we won't learn.